Hello everyone and welcome to what could be the funniest Evans Gambit game ever played, well at least when at least one of the players is a master is involved. It's a Frank James Marshall against Samuel Shapiro. Now we don't know who Samuel Shapiro was. Supposedly he was a 17-year-old high school student, but that's pretty much all the information we have. So there's the hoodie guy again, and in honor of the hoodie guy, of course, I am wearing a hoodie. So it's a game from 1944, the game when the year when Frank James Marshall died, but I don't know when this game was played exactly. We do know that it was well in or before March of 1944, but we're going to get back to that after we check out the game. So without further ado, 17-year-old high school student versus 67-year-old Frank James Marshall. So let's check it out. We have e4, e5, bishop to c4, so the bishop's opening. We will kind of transpose into the Evans Gambit, bishop c5, and now b4. We have bishop captures on b4, c3, bishop goes back, bishop to a5, and now knight to f3, and knight to c6. Shapiro basically transposes into the Evans Gambit, the main line. We have castles by Marshall, and now d6, just continuing development, and now d4. Which is always the case. You want to start giving up material for really rapid development. Bishop back to b6, now the greedy 4 pawns, and now instead of d captures on e4, we have a4. Now a4, if you check the database, or at least the one I'm using, it says that the last time a4 was played was in 1905, but since this is a game from 1944, and it is a simultaneous exhibition game, perhaps it isn't, well, it doesn't seem to be in the database, but okay. We have a4 and now knight to f6. Shapiro continues development, attacks the e4 pawn, and now a5. So what's the point behind a5? Let's check it out. Shapiro captures the pawn. We have knight captures on a5 and Marshall captures it. Rook captures on a5, bishop captures on a5, and only now d captures on a5. Attacking the knight here, we have d captures and now knight captures on e5. So attacking the f7 pawn, and here Frank James Marshall manages to bluff his way away from the queen trade, because queen captures on d1 is still the best choice for black. It doesn't matter, yes, you'll capture on f7, but after king e7 and rook captures, you're going to play bishop b6, prepare c5 so you can block bishop a3 check, and the white has nothing. Well, let's say bishop a3 check, c5, and here you don't really have any good continuation, you're just down the exchange. So this would have been best for Shapiro, but you know, he's playing Frank James Marshall and he trusts him. So he goes bishop to e6, he defends against the threat. We have bishop captures on e6, f captures on e6, and now queen to b3, attacking the e6 pawn, but also the b7 pawn. So bishop to b6 now, defending, and also puts pressure on the f2 pawn, prevents f4, but now bishop to a3, not going for queen captures, doesn't really do anything, black can just block with the queen. Instead, bishop to a3, not allowing black to castle. So c5, you want to prevent this, and now queen to b5 with check, now that c6 is no longer possible. We have king to f8, and now f4. So kind of seems like a risky decision, but you know, c4 doesn't really do anything for the moment. So queen to c7, just adding another defender to the pawn here, and also if f5 is played or something, you can just pick up the knight. So here knight to d2, white starts bringing more pieces into the game, and now rook to d8, just developing, threatening to pick up the knight on d2. We have knight d on c4, now bringing the knight closer to the action, also just preparing to eliminate the bishop on b6, and now comes knight captures on e4. This pawn was hanging for a few moves now, but black wanted to develop a few pieces before capturing it. So knight captures on e4 now, and here Marshall just continues pushing. We have f5. So what do you do here? Shapiro captures, we have e captures on f5, rook captures on f5, and here the best idea for black is just knight to f6. You block and the game continues. However, after this rook captures on f5, Shapiro played king to g8, and here he allows white some very interesting ideas. So feel free to pause the video and try to find the best move for white in this position while I give you a couple of seconds. So for those of you who were able to do it, congratulations on being, well, a very precise calculator, as it's not easy to find. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, it's knight captures on b6. Point being that you do not want the knight captured, well, especially not with the queen, since the queen is essential to guard the f7 square. But for example, if queen captures, you just deliver this check, and there's really not much you can do. If you can start giving up some pieces, but mainly it's just queen to f7 mate. So best after knight captures on b6 is first rook d1 check, then white blocks with the rook, you cannot go to f2, the knight covers that, rook captures king, or queen captures, even better, just queen captures. Again, you cannot capture due to the mate on f7, but now just a captures on b6. However, you have queen to c4 with check, and now after the king moves, you pick up the knight, and also you guard your own knight on e5, and now it's 2 pieces against the rook. That's still undeveloped rook. White will be much better here. So after this king to g8 move, definitely knight captures, freeing up this diagonal for the queen is best for Marshall. However, Marshall played queen to b3 instead. He's now threatening some very nasty discoveries, but there is one good, very good defensive move for young Shapiro. So feel free to pause the video again and try to find the only good defensive move for black while I give you a couple of seconds. So for those of you who were able to do it, congratulations on calculating precisely all the nasty discoveries, because there aren't any that are really nasty. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, it's actually g6. You free the g7 square for the king, so now all the nasty discoveries, you can just move the king, but there aren't any that are good. So basically, if you capture the knight, doesn't really do anything, because just c4, you block it, and well, next move you can just pick up the knight. It doesn't really matter. You can pick up the rook, so nothing really happens here. What you can do, however, instead of capturing it, is also rook to f7. How about this? Also doesn't work, because here, okay, you attack the queen, you get the rook out of harm's way, but now you have queen captures on e5, another temporary queen sacrifice, and after the knight captures, now you just play c4, and now you deliver check, and you pick up the queen. So here, if you don't want to give up the queen for nothing, you have to pick up the bishop, and after, let's say, rook d1 check first, you trade off a few more pieces, rook f1, captures, now you pick up the queen, and now you are again in a completely winning endgame, because you are up the exchange. That being said, after queen to b3, g6 the only good move for young Shapiro. However, again we have a twist. Shapiro finds knight to d2, and it comes with a similar idea, but again, it doesn't work. It works in the game, but it doesn't really work, because here, had Marshall played queen to a2, it just prevents black from surviving this, because now without the queen being on b3, you will not have the c4 check attacking the queen, which was crucial in all of the defensive lines for black. So here, if you try g6 or something like that, just knight captures on b6 with check, and you pick up a free piece. Even if you block with c4, it doesn't come with the attack on the queen, so there's really nothing. You just move the knight bd7, and the game continues. White is up material. However, after knight to d2, Frank James Marshall actually captures the knight. We have knight captures on d2, and here 17-year-old high school student Samuel Shapiro plays c4, and now it's check, and the queen is under attack. Frank James Marshall loses the queen, so he doesn't want to give it up for nothing. He plays queen captures on b6. We have queen captures with check, king f1, and now queen to e3. And now, with black being up so much material, he will definitely try not to make any mistakes. So here you're just attacking a lot of pieces, and it's very hard for white to defend. If white tries something like knight d captures on c4, you have just rook to d1 with mate. On the other hand, if you try something like this, knight captures on c4, knight d captures on c4, then queen d3 check picks up the rook on f5. Also not very good for white. So here, Marshall played bishop to e7, attacks the rook. Also, he's hoping for rook captures and rook to f8 mate, but it's too late for such cheapos. Here, queen captures on d2 was played. Okay, we have bishop captures on d8, queen captures, and now it's a queen against a rook and a knight. Of course, completely winning for Shapiro. Marshall continued with g4, but with a5, and this is the worst. You're playing against a weaker opponent. You are Frank James Marshall, and your opponent just plays a5. Basically, he says, yeah, you should resign this. It is the worst feeling in the world. So Marshall continued for a few more moves, g5 with queen to d1 check, now forcing the king to the second rank, and after king f2, just queen to c2 check, now this connects to the rook. King g3 was played, and after queen captures on f5, Frank James Marshall resigned the game on move 31. Now I read online that this is a game from 1944 simultaneous exhibition that Frank James Marshall held, and the result of his simultaneous exhibition was 17 wins, 6 draws, and only 1 loss to 17-year-old Samuel Shapiro. And it also says that it's a loss to the 17-year-old Samuel Shapiro attending Townsend Harris Hall in Queens, New York. So perhaps if you are, from Queens, maybe you know a certain Samuel Shapiro that is around 75 years old, and if so, it could be the gentleman that defeated Frank James Marshall in this simultaneous exhibition, if he's still alive. But 75 is not that too much, so he could very well still be alive, and he just might be your neighbor, so you might have a neighbor who defeated Frank James Marshall. That would be really awesome. Like I said, it's I don't know when the game exactly was played, since Marshall died in 1944 in November, but it says that here the Brooklyn Daily Eagle, the magazine, this game was published 30th of March on page 15. So it was definitely played prior to that. Not really sure when, but just thought you guys might enjoy this as well. I thought you might enjoy this, since we're waiting for the World Rapid and Blitz Championship to start on the 26th, so we're gonna check up on such a few nice games like this one. And of course, Christmas is coming, so why not give the hoodie guy a nice victory against none other than Frank James Marshall. So that's the game. I do hope you enjoyed it. I would like to thank Kuro Chess Club, Norman R. Fisher, Venkata Krishna S., Francois Yon, and Jack Coburn for a contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing to check up on your wonderful suggestions. And we're preparing for our next big saga, but also first we have to check on the World Rapid and Blitz Championship. So thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.